Well, hello there. Hello. Clearly, if you read the title of this little video, then you will know what we're going to talk about today, which is grief. And specifically, the kind of grief that I want to talk about is losing someone and them dying. Like, there's so many different kinds of grief, obviously. Like, there's like so many loss of like something that's really meaningful to you, a loss of a friendship. It doesn't necessarily always need to be death where you can grieve. You can grieve a lot of things. But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to talk about grieving while I'm presently grieving the loss of a family member right now. Because I think that it's very interesting to be able to like have things like this to look back on and reflect. Especially because I know that how I am dealing with death now is very different than how I've dealt with death in the past. Yeah, and so I just kind of wanted to have a convo, and I don't really know why I'm standing in my kitchen right now. This is just what felt the most comfy cozy. So I'm rolling with it. Anyways, yeah, I have some little notes because I want to be very I want to be specific as to what I say, because I know that grief is like a huge topic, and it's it's a hard topic, and it's a heavy one. And I mean, I'm also just a 19-year-old teenage girl. I'm literally just a teenage girl. What is a girl to do? Not a professional. My opinions, how I deal with things, and please don't take what I'm saying as advice, as professional advice, because it's not. This is literally just me spewing shit. But with that being said, got my notes, my wee notes, and yeah, let's just get into it. I feel like this is gonna start making me panic if it's behind me, because I won't be able to see it, so I'm just gonna move it. But anyways, so I think what I wanted to cover was like how I dealt with grief in the past, how I'm dealing with it now, and the strategies that tend to work for me, and kind of like how I try to function in a world when things get like absolutely shaken up to the core. Yeah, so why don't I like start with how I'm dealing with it now. So a little backstory, I guess. Basically, it was a very sudden death, and the circumstances around it are pretty tragic. And it wasn't like when my great grandma was 100 years old and passed away due to old age. It like very much wasn't like that at all, which is hard because I was in a huge state of shock for probably 6 or 7 days, where I was just floating by. I was so not grounded. It was really tough. I mean, it's been like, how long has it been? It's been probably 3 weeks now that I've been processing. And yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that I did was just allow myself a second to just try to snap out of little disassociation land, because that's just where my body went to, that's just where my brain and body went to try to protect myself. And so fair. That's so fair. But eventually we need to come out of that. And feel things again. And so that being said, when I came out of it, I like wasn't really sleeping that much. And so when I recognized that, and I recognized that things were being thrown off, I was like, okay, how can I get back to my most basic needs? I hate using that word, but like needs, we're just gonna use the word, even though I hate it, but like go down to the basics of food, sleep, water, movement, like 4 things. That's it. And so I was like, okay, how do I try to bring myself back into a normal sleep schedule? Because I was staying up. Like, if you know me, I go to bed at 9. I'm in bed by 9. I am like an old person. But I was like up until 3 and I wasn't really sleeping and I was very out of whack. I mean, the time change didn't fucking help either, but here we are. So trying to reset my sleep, trying to eat all of my meals, because I lost a bit of my appetite just due to like how things were. Like, it was just so nauseating all the time. And so I was like, okay, like, I don't have to eat these huge things, but making sure that I'm eating, because eating and sleeping and drinking water and moving my body help to give you that base of proper functionality, if you will. And so I was definitely out of whack and I definitely needed to go back there. And so I worked a bit on that. I feel like before when I did experience like big life shifts, especially death, I would go into self-destructive mode a bit. And I would be like, yeah, like, okay, this is an excuse for me to be able to just sink back into the familiarity of bad habits and bad coping strategies and mechanisms. Which is so fair. Like, when your brain is fucked because it was just thrown a crazy, unsettling, unstabling situation, it's like, hey girl, this is familiar. You like this feeling. And it's just easy to go back into. And so I would lean into that. But now I'm in a place where I recognize it and I'm like, but you like being happy now. You kind of have like good vibes going, and you know, you don't necessarily want to sabotage yourself because you don't deserve that. Like, I don't deserve it. I am very much deserving of a happy, healthy life. And yeah, so that's been a huge difference, is in the ways that I am, maybe just like my mindset shift on it. Like, the way that I'm just looking at the situation, I don't see it as an opportunity to go fuck myself over anymore. I see it as like a shitty situation, but an opportunity to show myself that I am capable of using what I've learned and putting it into practice. Because you can talk and talk and talk and talk about doing all these things, but when push comes to shove, being able to show yourself like, hey, like, I got this. This is a super shit situation, but you got skills, you got people. Leaning on people is huge. I would isolate myself. I'd be like, fuck y'all, I don't want to talk to anyone. I just like completely push everyone away. But now I'm like, okay, friends, family, support systems in place. Keep them close, keep them around, because seriously, they're there because they love you, and they're there because they want to see you succeed. And it's just, you can't function by yourself, and you can't get through something that huge by yourself. I mean, you can. Fuck it. What am I saying? You can, but it's really, really hard, and it makes things so much easier. You feel so much less alone when you can reach out and know that there's people there. Like, I got my mom and I got my dad and I've got, you know, my entire family that has been affected by this death in the family. I've also got my partner. I've got my friends that I've made here. You know, I've got my support system in place. Like, I've got my counselor, I've got my psychiatrist, I've got my school counselors, I've got my physician. Like, I've got like all these people in my bubble. I digress, but having people in your toolkit and having skills in your toolbox makes a huge difference. And when you're willing to be vulnerable and reach out and say, hey, I'm really struggling, that's also huge. And it's hard and it's shitty in the moment because you just kind of want to curl up and die in the corner because you're like, oh my God, what did I just do? I'm such a burden. Oh my God. Ugh. You know, but like once you realize that those people are there to help and they want to help you, it makes things a lot easier and a lot more manageable. Now I feel like is the time where I break out the infamous DBT, crisis distress tolerance pamphlet. You know? If you know, you know. Anyways, I mean, as like kind of silly and stupid as it is, and it seems like these things work. Like, they really do. Like, I remember when I was just starting DBT a few years ago, I was like, oh my God, this is stupid. This is pointless. I hate this. You know, as an angsty teenager struggling with her mental health does. But like, I just literally had a refresher on this. I hadn't done like an official DBT session for a little while now, but I had a refresher session in like a group setting for the first time a couple days ago, and I have like an updated surviving crisis situations without making them worse handout, which honestly, I enjoy things in pamphlets. That's something about myself. It's easy. You know, they have little boxes, you can check them off, but basically, long story short, what it is it gives you ways in which to manage crises, to manage crises or distressing situations in a healthy and just an overall more positive way, if you will. I mean, I'm trying not to like spew shit that sounds super technical because at the end of the day, not a therapist. I am not licensed in any way to really be giving advice. This is, once again, just me sharing my own strategies and what works for me. But I wanted to share some of like my strategies that work for me. I'm not saying anyone needs to be doing these if you're going through a similar situation, but just as something that I do that works for me in situations when I'm grieving and I know that I am not the best mentally. So first of all, before I even get into this, I wrote some down because I've been wanting to talk about this, but I didn't want to do it when I wasn't in a proper state of mind. I wanted to do this when I knew I was like, had a good day. I was gonna be able to talk about this without it affecting me negatively. And so, yeah, I wrote down some things like probably a week ago, and I'm just getting to a place where I'm talking about it tonight. But let's go through it now. So what I find helpful strategy-wise, music. Now this one's tricky because I am a very highly sensitive and emotional person. I find that music has a huge effect on my mood. Huge effect. Huge. If I'm listening to happy music, I find myself in a happier state. If I'm listening to like calmer music, I'm in a calmer state. If I'm listening to sad music, I'm fucking sad. Anyways, I find that listening to music when I'm in the right headspace to be doing so, of music that like reminds me of that person, that like puts me into a happier place, or like if I'm really needing to feel and I'm feeling like I'm starting to become detached from myself, giving myself like a little guideline of, okay, here's like 10 minutes, go wallow in your sadness, and then we're gonna not stay in it, but giving myself the permission to feel things little bits at little times.
Another way of looking at it is giving yourself a permission slip to allow yourself to do something. Permission slips. I also use that, not just in music, but like in life. Giving myself a permission slip to like, I don't know, sit my ass down for 2 hours if I want to. Giving myself a permission slip to maybe skip over doing a task that I should have been doing today. Anyways.
And same with like looking at photos, like old photos, or like going through just like memories. I can't let it all in at once. I gotta let it in just in small little increments, otherwise I will spiral. But that is something that I find helpful when I do it in a healthy way. I mean, I'm also an artist, fun fact, in case you didn't know. And I find that for me, just how I'm wired, making art is really helpful when it comes to processing. So when I make art about grief, or when I'm in a grieving state and I'm making art, I try to be very mindful of why I'm making this art, what's coming out of it, what am I feeling, and being present and in my body and trying not to float out. Like sometimes art is great in the sense that I'm doing it and and I'm in the zone and like 7 hours pass right over my head, right? But when I'm using art as a tool for processing, it's helpful because I can like lock in, but actively process the emotions that are coming up, the feelings that are coming up, the memories that are coming up, like all the things. And instead of feeling like it's bottling up inside, I'm able to like get it out onto whatever, like using whatever materials or using whatever mediums, whatever that I'm doing, like instead of it being stuck inside, get it out. I find that helpful for processing. Being around people and family, touched on this earlier. Self-isolation is a no-go, guys. It's a no-go. We used to do that a lot. But just surrounding myself with people that I love, that I know are also going through tough times, that I know are there to support me, is huge. Like that, the feeling of being supported is huge. And when I am in a state that I'm in now versus where I was, which no judgment, that's just where I was at in the moment, but like the state I'm in now, I realize how important that is. The state I was in before, dealing with grief, mental health, all the things, was isolate, shun myself away, don't let people in, don't process it, use it as an excuse. Whereas now it's very different. And it's less about judging myself, because I don't need to. Like, that's just where I was at in the moment, but it's about being a lot kinder to myself, because everyone goes through grief. Everyone's gonna grieve, everyone's gonna lose a loved one, everyone's gonna go through these emotions and shit, and it's not a singular experience. It's not a unique experience, and with that comes other people that have experienced similar things and that want to be there for you, to be there to support you, and vice versa. Like, I want to be there to support my family members that are going through it right now, because I know people are going through it right now. Yeah, and it's so important to have that community around you and all the things. Ugh. It makes me like so emotional thinking about my previous self, like my poor younger self. Oh, she was going through it. It's okay. We're here now. Anyways, going outside, that's a huge one. Even if it's just walking to go pick myself up a coffee, if it's walking around the block, if it's going outside, standing outside like a statue, but breathing in the fresh fucking city air. It doesn't matter. Going outside and just putting a different perspective in front of my eyes. I find that when I'm inside in bed, not moving, not going out, my reality and my perception of my reality, I should say, is what's in front of me. And when I go outside, I notice for myself that my perspective on my reality changes because the world is in front of me, not just my living room that's in front of me. And I feel like I could go into it deep, but I've already been talking for like fucking 30 minutes and no one wants to hear me talk for this long. So next, anywho, there's lots of things that I try to avoid. I was gonna touch on those, but like the more that I'm talking, the more I don't actually think I wanna touch on those, because this is less about me telling someone how to function in these situations and more just sharing what I'm doing right now in the state that I'm in. Cool. Our lovely little fucking worksheet. I'm not gonna really go into it because not a physician, not a doctor, not a therapist, have no license whatsoever to talk about this at all in a way where you should be taking my advice. But I wanted to share some points under the 3 little sections that I find helpful as strategies to use. So, anyhow, the 3 big sections are like distracting, self-soothing, and improving the moment. Once again, okay, so I checked it all off, whatever. It's also like dark out and I didn't want creepy people staring at me. Creepy people staring at me, so we shut the blinds. And I'm just at like a point where I'm sensing myself getting very emotionally drained by this. Like I'm doing good, I'm fine, but I'm just not wanting to push myself too far, which is very valid. And so I'm just gonna go through each of the 3. Whew. I thought I saw someone behind me. There's no one behind you, Maverick. There's no one behind you. Okay. Anyways, I'm just gonna go through the 3 different categories of like distracting, self-soothing, whatever. And in them, you can go so deep into it. There's subcategories, there's acronyms. DBT loves their acronyms. I'm not gonna do that because I don't want to. And so I'm just gonna read under the whole umbrella of distracting, self-soothing, and zipping in the moment, improving the moment. Okay, anywho. So for distracting, these are just what I've checked off here. I'm sure there's more. Doesn't matter. So for distracting, focus attention on a task you need to get done. So like, I don't know, cleaning the bathroom if you gotta clean the bathroom. Doing schoolwork sometimes can be a really good distraction for me. Watch movies or watch a TV show. clean a room in your house, find an event to go to. If I'm in the right headspace, leaving the house and getting ready is great. Go walking, go exercise. If that's where my mind is at, that's what I can do. Like, it's also all about like gauging the moment and the situation and how you're actually doing, because one day one of these coping mechanisms might work, but then like the next day it might not, because you're in a different place. So I don't know, it's just about gauging where you're at. But anywho, go out for a meal or eat a favorite food. Food can be great. It can also be a really tricky subject, and so take it or leave it. For me, it can be helpful. Call or go out with a friend. That kind of falls into, my God, I'm literally drawing a blank. Like, not like being around, literally being around people. That falls into being around people. Okay, keeping going. Make something nice for someone. I really enjoy gift giving. That's just something I enjoy anyways, even when I'm not in the throes of it. But sometimes I find that putting my energy into doing something for someone can be helpful in the right situation. Counting, count to 10, count colors in a painting or a poster or out the window, count anything. Sometimes I like to try to like count by 7s, count by 3s, see how far I can go, or like counting in my mind, like, or just naming the streets that I walk through to, like, I don't know, when I walk to school, like naming the streets I would walk past or walk on getting to school, like shit like that. I don't know, because it just makes you focus on something else. Anyways, go out in the rain or snow. When I lived in Vancouver, that was awesome because it was always raining there, but it doesn't rain here, which I kind of hate. Anyways, or just go outside in general. Take a hot or cold shower. And one thing that I really enjoy doing is holding ice in my hands, like ice cubes in my hands, and like moving them around and like focusing on the feeling of that. Or taking spoons, putting it in the freezer, and then putting the spoons like under like my eyes, like where the really thin skin is, right under your eyes. I don't know. That's that. Next is self-soothing. Some of these are like really cringe. I feel like I feel very vulnerable literally talking about these things, but this will be a really interesting thing to look back on in like 5 days, 5 months, 5 years, 50 years. Ugh, it's okay. Okay, anyways, light a candle, watch the flame. What have I been doing this whole time? That candle was like one of the big ass ones, which, Mom, I know you're watching this and I know you said no tall candles, but my eyes have not left the candle. So Lisa, I'm being responsible. I'm being a responsible adult, I swear. Don't come after me, Mom. Anyways, look at the nature around you. I don't live in nature right now. So I look at the city around me. I look at the concrete jungle. Or like people watching. People watching is super awesome here. There's always someone to look at, always someone doing something random. Watch a sunrise or a sunset. Be mindful of each sight that passes in front of you. That's a good one. Like if I were to sit in a park, like just watching all the people, or like if a leaf falls off of a fucking tree, or like if a dog walks by me. Anyways, take a walk in a park or a scenic hike. And sometimes if I'm out in like a grassy area and I know that the grass isn't gross, like sticking and standing barefoot in the grass can be also really awesome and very grounding. Very tricky to find a solid patch of grass that I feel comfortable doing that in the city. But anyways, burning incense or light a scented candle. This is another one. So I'm very sensitive to scent, but when I'm like in the throes of it, like having a panic attack, having an anxiety attack, or just like super overwhelmed and starting to feel out of body, taking an orange and like mindfully peeling it and like smelling the orange, and like, because an orange is fucking juicy and shit. Anyways, smelling the orange and then mindfully eating the orange is really helpful, because then it hits like the tactile, the scent, the taste. Anyways, eating some of your favorite foods, drinking some of your favorite drinks, have a little sweet treat. It says treat yourself to a dessert, but sweet treat. Anyways, eating a childhood food, like a favorite childhood food, that can be awesome when I'm feeling nostalgic and like I need to go back to when I was 6 and life was a lot simpler, but sometimes that makes it worse. So once again, gauging. Taking a long hot bath or shower, wrapping up in a blanket, or just literally fucking crawling in bed. Rotting in bed responsibly. Yeah. Okay, next, that was self-soothing. Now improving the moment. So improving the moment, remembering a happy time and imagining myself in it again. That can be helpful. Can also be very unhelpful. Anyways, drinking a hot drink can be relaxing. Focusing my entire attention on just what I'm doing, that can be helpful. Okay, this one is gonna sound really weird, but this kind of touches on a few things. So first of all, having like a mini vacation. So like getting ready, going out, doing something like going to the beach or going to a park or blah, 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 or just like shutting off my phone, putting it on airplane mode and like chucking it away for a few hours. That can be helpful. I also find that if I'm having a rough day, I do this thing where I like do a reset. And so what I do is if I'm like, hey, fuck, I hate this day, or like I'm just not feeling it, I pretend like I just woke up, and I will literally lay in bed and have like a 5-minute timer set, and I will close my eyes and pretend once my alarm goes off that I'm waking up for the first time of the day. Doesn't matter if it's 6 p.m. I don't care. I'm just going through the motions, and then I reset and I do my morning routine. So I get up, I get some fresh water in my water bottle, go shower, skincare, put on an outfit if I'm planning on leaving the house, like just doing like a reset, like hitting the reset button. Yeah, and everything else I hated on here and don't work for me. So there's that. Anyways, that's me talking about grief while grieving. Woo! My God, I'm gonna literally, no, it's okay. I'm like having an internal battle of like how much I'm gonna cringe when I'm watching over this, editing it. It's okay. I think this was really an interesting thing for me to do. And if I end up being like, no, this just deserves a place on a hard drive somewhere, and for me to look back on it in a while, then that's what's gonna happen. And otherwise, I'm just gonna roll with it.
I hope you enjoyed watching me yap and not shut the fuck up for 30 minutes. I assume no one watched the end, but that's okay. It's not the point, is it now? Anyways, that's literally all I got, so